Hey everyone, welcome to Schmoedown back in Canada. Well, I'm good, I'm feeling good, but I'm not alone. I have my fellow Mount Schmoedown co-hosts, Ryan, and David and Aaron. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, man. It's good to finally
Yeah,
be on the show with you. But I've been, as I said before we went live, I've been watching you guys for years, and I've been on the show once before, but I don't think I was on with Ben. So it's good to finally chat in person with you.
Yeah. How you doing, Aaron and Ryan?
Good, yeah. Yeah. Nice to be a part of a show labeled in Canada with no Canadians. I'm glad I could bring that to you guys. Very opposite of it, but no, I've never actually been on this show, but I've done your guys' show, and I've done shows adjacent with people who are a part of it. So it was nice to be invited on, and happy to be here.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we do apologize that you're not on here with like actual Canadians. I mean, Ben and I were just
That's
Canadian adjacent and honorary Canadians, but we try to do our best to represent the boys in the North.
I was born like 3 hours south of Canada, so I think I might be the closest.
All right, we'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would
we're,
be. I'm close. I'm closest to the Mexican border in San Diego, so I'm kind of like southern Canadian.
I'm like a really long swim from Mexico, so
yeah.
Perfect. But this.
So,
go ahead.
why don't, I'm sorry, why don't we get started with Wednesday's match? Your leader is Burkett, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Burkett, you got it right the first time, man.
Okay, cool. What did you guys think of this match?
Well,
who wants to shoot
honestly,
first? Go.
I mean, it's literally up in the air between all of us here, but I'll just give quick thoughts. This was great match. Obviously, Burkett, gold leader, obviously showed that they are top tier in Star Wars knowledge, and I loved the energy Zach was bringing in to the match from his promo, talking about he wanted to take on gold leader after he had won his match against Wit, and he's getting his opportunity to face gold leader. And I do, and trust me, both of these men proved exactly why they're so damn good. But we can get more into that. Just give my general impression.
Okay, how about you, Taken? How about you?
Yeah,
What
I
did
mean,
you think?
this was a great match. It was a good like kind of precursor to the finals that we got at the pay-per-view, which was also a really good match, if not better than this one. But this just showed how deep the Star Wars division goes right now, and how competitive it is, and how you basically have to go perfect in order to win one of these matches. And we've obviously had competitors that have missed, even like Damon or Demolanta. But I think this deep into a tournament, into a Star Wars tournament, you're going to basically need to be near perfect. And it was the difference of having to check down to multiple choice once in this match, which is pretty damn impressive. And then, later on we had Thomas Harper winning just because he also only got one more point. So it's just very competitive. And this is definitely a good like lead in, as I said, to kind of what we had later on. And really impressed by Burkett and Gold Leader this season. I think that like these guys are really going to rise in the rankings in the Star Wars division now that it's so much more open.
What did you think, Aaron?
I mean, in terms of competitiveness, it was probably the most entertaining match of the week. At this point, I feel like what can you really say about the Star Wars division? These competitors take this to such a serious extent, which I think is incredible considering like when you look at it's always fun to compare like where the Schmoedown came from to where it is now of like the amount of seriousness. Like these guys are legitimately mental athletes. Like it's at the point where like if you go, you don't even have to miss a question, which I can't remember if this is what happened with this match, but I know for a fact now there has been more than one match where you don't even have to miss a question. You can just go to multiple choice and lose. And it's like, that is insanity that's where this league has come to. I mean, there's no point in talking about who the top contenders are. If you're ballsy enough to go in there, you're a top contender. I mean, Adam Witt's like 0-4, and he still played multiple championship level matches. Like, that's how insane that this is.
Yeah.
And this match was on par with the rest of them. I mean, both guys showed up to play. There was that bit of natural story element that the two do know each other in real life, and so that kind of fueled a bit of a rivalry a little bit they were able to bring to it. And they both delivered, you know. And that's the thing about this whole tournament, right? Because obviously, kind of including the finals as well, there wasn't one dud match. You know, the idea is that Star Wars is like the elite league, basically, and every faction showed they have at least one player who is top elite, and they did the best they could.
Well, let me go over this really quick.
Go for it.
They both got perfect. They both got the bonus question. So it's 11-11 going into round 2. Round 2 comes. Zach gets the Force Awakens, and Golden gets Return of the Jedi.
That's right.
And it's, well, by the time round 2 ends, 21-20. What did you guys think of this round?
To go off of earlier on with bouncing off what Davian and both Aaron were saying, like this match really came down to it. Like it wasn't about really missing your question. It was just checking down, especially round 2 played the biggest factor as we saw here with Force Awakens. Zach was doing very good till he got like to his third question and he had to check down to multiple choice, unfortunately. Either it was the way the question was worded or Zach just didn't feel he had enough time to warrant a repeat. So he felt it would have been much better to get the question right instead of missing it and affording gold leader a steal. So he may have checked down multiple choice, but he was being strategic about how he went down to it, because last thing you want to do is go in here, you feel that you have the answer, but if there's that slight doubt and you want to ignore it and then it turns out you're wrong, then guess what? You're just giving your opponent 2 extra points, putting that gap between you that much wider. So I'd say Zach, he didn't get the perfect round he wanted to, but he did at least make sure Gold Leader didn't steal anything off of him.
Yeah.
What did you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that's the thing with the Star Wars leagues at this point. It's so elite. It's hard to talk about one of these matches individually because at this point, it's not even mistakes. It's like the same recurrent things are happening over and over again. So it's like, yeah, unfortunately, you know, Zach played basically perfect, if not perfect. I can't remember. I think you said they did both go perfect in round 1, right?
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So to this point, he's playing a perfect game. And if I remember, did he go first or second? I think he went first, if I remember.
Yeah, he did.
So exactly. So even to that point, he's continuing to push his momentum. You have no control over what goal leader is going to do. So at that point, you have to just play for yourself. And in that moment, he wasn't 100% sure. He did what he had to do and he checked down. He still got the point. You can't even fault him for it because he missed. It's just then Burkett went perfect. And at that point, or Bushkar, excuse me, he went perfect. And it's like, what are you going to do at that point? There's no way you could have predicted it outside of just having to do what you need to do to get the answer.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's crazy with these second and third rounds this season in a lot of these matches. I mean, in this one, we obviously saw it was the multiple choice that was the difference. And strategically, you know, if you spin first, especially in Star Wars, I mean, you have to be 100% certain on every single answer, you know, in that second round. And part of that is sometimes you have to check down to multiple choice. You know, if you think you know it, you're not 100% on it, just go for 1 point so that he doesn't get that steal, right? And then just hope that your opponent also has to check down to multiple choice or that they miss one. And it's just so difficult to really judge. But, you know, the goal is to get every single answer correct. So sometimes if that means checking down to multiple choice, then it's like, well, you did the best you could. And then we saw that later on in the week in a similar division that's such as deep with IG, with Robert Parker also checking down to multiple choice and that being the difference in that match. Obviously, they didn't go perfect in round one, but it's just pretty crazy that we are at this point right now with both, I think, IG and Star Wars, where you almost have to get every single answer correct in that wheel round without multiple choice to guarantee a potential victory. And so it's nuts.
Get to sudden death. Or at least get to sudden death.
Yeah.
Because we've seen with Star Wars IG with the past couple of matches that getting to sudden even victory is difficult, but landing yourself on sudden death, it almost feels like a lucky break at times. Because, you mentioned with Parker, rewinding back to his match playing against Hannah. Hannah had gotten off of a victory against Zipper by getting into sudden death. I mean, luck, and then you see here, Hannah didn't play the exact same game he played against Zipper, while Parker, he was still maintaining to keep that form, especially when we saw him get a chance later on, how he was able to stay ahead. And then, later on against Chandru, as long as it gets to the point with high top tier players like Parker, and also in the Star Wars division like Burkett, Harper, Ace Cabrera, and Gold Leader, just to name a few we've seen, where being tied with your opponent is most likely your best option if you want to see them slip up.
Well, let's go over round 3 real quick. They both get perfect again.
Yep.
So the final score is 31 to 30.
Crazy.
Gold Leader wins. Why not Deacon? Why not you say it's not this time? Why didn't you pick up this round?
Yeah, man, it's just nuts. Like so many of these matches that we've seen this season where everybody gets a perfect third round. I mean, and I also have to give props, as always, to PJ Campbell and the writing team, because these are not easy questions, at all. You really have to know your stuff, and it's still these questions are so deep and you have to be so specific with your answer. And the writers are doing such a great job with diving as deep as they possibly can. And yet these guys are still getting every single one right. They nail their 2, they nail their 3, they nail their 5. And so many of these matches this year, it's just been a 1-point difference. And that's due to something that happened earlier in the match. So once you get to round 3, it's just everybody aces everything. And it's a matter of, the last guy to hit their 5 winning the match. So similar thing here with this match. I wouldn't expect anything less from these guys than hitting every single question right in round 3. And I think in Star Wars, you kind of have to. You have to get every single question right, especially in round 3. I mean, if you miss one or here or there in the first couple rounds, that's one thing, but you have to go perfect in round 3. So that's what happened, and I don't think this is the last, after the other matches that we've seen this week, I think this is going to be a common occurrence of just a 1-point difference in this third round.
Evan, what did you think real quick?
I mean, they went perfect again. I know it doesn't make for great commentary, but it's almost kind of hard to speak in detail when it comes to different match to different match to different match because of the level that they're at this point. I mean, if you go back through the season and look through the stats, there hasn't been, I believe if I'm correct, there hasn't been one performance this season where a player has scored less than 20 points in Star Wars. That's where we're at this point. The last bad performance in a Star Wars match was when Ace lost the title chance last year. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Every single player in this division is playing to the absolute best of their strengths. And so it's coming down essentially to those moments where either somebody slips up on a basic in round 1, or they go to a multiple in round 2, or 2s and 3s at this point, I think Star Wars players have unlocked. Maybe you'll catch somebody with a 5. That parking garage number 1 last year that Ace got right. I think even now there are players who wouldn't catch something like that. But that is the level we're at, where that's how difficult it's going to have to be. So, for this match specifically, good on them. They got 3 questions that I know I would have never answered because, damn, that's such a deep understanding of a franchise. And truthfully, at this point, and I know it's 6 months away plus, but I'm wondering what they're going to do to kind of chuck a new challenge at them. Because we've seen with IG this year, it's the new categories. And some players have been hit a little bit by it, and some are soaring. Whereas with Star Wars, I don't know what that could possibly be outside of adding the Disney Plus stuff, but there's got to be something there you got to put in to like make this matter, because I think eventually we're going to run into a problem where, even as somebody who like talking about the Schmoedown, I'm already having, where when every single match is played the exact same way and it's the slight mistakes that come down to give you a winner, it's kind of hard to have new things to think and say about it. And I wonder what that'll eventually be.
Well, don't forget, we still haven't had all that many heavy hitters yet. We still haven't seen Ace. Well, we saw Ace. We still have Dimmalanta and we still have Kelly that we haven't seen all that often yet this year.
I mean, Dimmalanta, we've seen 2 title matches, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. But Kelly,
Laura Kelly's only played 1 match though.
She's only played 1, but that's because she's been stuck waiting.
right.
Yeah,
But
she would have
even
played
then,
already.
like,
But yeah.
But I mean, I was agreeing with you guys. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's been a while we've seen Dimmalanta or Kelly play, because they started like at the very first 3 months of the season. I mean, Laura was playing for a number 1 contender match. Then Dimmalanta
Laura played the first match of the season,
which was a number 1 contenders match. To play against either Dimmalanta or Damon. And it was just amazing seeing that, she's got to wait this long now. And now with Collision coming up, he's finally getting her opportunity. And with Dimmalanta, even after he had lost the tournament last year, he had to wait even longer in order to know if he was going to face against either Damon or Cabrera. And then just seeing the performance he put out. If Dimmalanta could do that, waiting over 9 months, I'm pretty sure Laura can also put out that same performance. So I know we're not doing predictions regarding Kelly and Dimmalanta, but I already know we're definitely getting another potential sudden death match between these two.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
There's only at that point, and it's the last thing I'll say on it. There's only one of 2 ways that can go. Is it either ends up like Dimmalanta, or there is always the possibility that it ends up with Ace, where Ace looked utterly unstoppable, had that big gap between matches, came back and it hurt him. Truly losing the momentum hurt him at that point. So it could be one or the other. Not that I'm hoping for a flop, but it'll be interesting to see how she performs.
It is a good point. We are going to finally see how their metal is tested. That great example, Cabrera, also with Dimmalanta, and now with Kelly, she's going to be exactly in the same position as those 2 guys were, having to wait for their opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's different for one last quick thing I'll say is different for different players. And I think we've seen ring rust, and we've also seen somebody like Mara Kanopik come back after over a year and a half and win the title. So I think it's just different for different players. But I think the type of player that Laura Kelly is, I'm not sure if ring rust is going to really be a thing. So we'll see. It's going to be fun to watch.
Okay. The second match is Sabrina Ramirez with Clay Wiggins. What are you guys' overall thoughts about this one? That is not with Ryan this time.
I mean, if I have to be blunt, this really was a very rough match. And this is no disrespect or so. Both players got opponent's choice, and it was obvious that rewatching the match, that Star Trek slice looked like it was within both Sabrina and Clee's minds to give it to one another. But you really started to see where round 2 came with the strategy. Oh, I think we just lost digging for a second.
Yeah, it might have been an internet shop.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll finish my thought before my internet starts to follow suit. Look, all I can say was that Sabrina and Clee definitely not green, but definitely some rookies to the game. Sabrina only had they both were 0-1 competitors. Clee was the most recently played with that black exhibition match, so she at least had a little more time to work. And from what Koya had said in that promos and pre-interviews, and also they've done a lot of mock matches with her. But it's clear that the difference was seen that once she got into the game, it's not as if the mock matches weren't sticking with her. It was just the questions were not really coming her way. And it was clear to me that with her getting Star Trek, it did feel like that was a slice she was not expecting to get. I mean, it was obvious to me that she looked like she could have done better with the Harrison Ford slice, or like she gave Klee, or she I mean, of course, they made sure that she did not do PTA or rom-com movies, and clearly knew what she was about. But yeah, look, despite this KO loss, she was stuck with opponent's choice. I do look forward to see what she's going to do next. I mean, obviously, she's going to have a lot to prove, but it won't matter to her. She's just going to come in with another opportunity.
Evan, what are your overall thoughts?
I feel like the best way to surmise this match is
Sorry.
yikes. Like
Dave, I've been on that boat too many times with internet, so it's okay.
No worries.
Yeah. No, you're good. Just yikes. Look, and I have to say, like, I'm sure nobody appreciated, because I saw the comment section when the match went up. I'm sure nobody appreciates the oh, they belong in like a flight weight division, or why do we still do matches like this thing? Because nobody's expecting to show up and perform like this. I don't think anybody expects this of themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe the real rejects, but then they do surprisingly better. But that's about it. Because they talk like this is what they expect. But no, just yikes. What I'll say is, as someone who, just for time's sake, I don't watch a lot of the SEN stuff. I didn't really know who Sabrina was. I knew she was on the channel. I've seen her do stuff on First Cut with Ace and RB3. I know she works with them. So like I had an idea of who she was, but I didn't really know her. I didn't understand why people were so excited about her entering. And her first match was fine, but it was an okay rookie debut. And it looked like with this match, taking away the opponent's choice, she kind of regressed. 3 of 8 in round 1 is not a good score. Now, that being said, Klee also got 4. So she doesn't escape from that either. But where Klee gets off a bit more is, I think the stat was like, out of 11 possible points in round 2, she earned 11. So she went from doing terrible to doing perfect, which I think kind of mimics what happened with that Black History match, if I remember. She didn't have the strongest round 1, but the more specific the questions got, the more she seemed to know, and then she ended up pulling it out in the sudden death. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I see Ryan's comment about the FCL. Maybe that's what she needs, like just less pressure, less in the spotlight, smaller matches type of thing. But yeah, like, again, as somebody who doesn't really know her, and I'm never going to discredit somebody, but for all the audience hype she has behind her, and like the fact that they dedicated, was it at Spectacular? They dedicated a cutscene to her.
Yeah, with her, Brandon
after
Hanson.
all of this like fanfare, it's not doing it yet, and you can only get by so long, especially the more and more competitive this gets. I mean, we just talked about the Star Wars division being the Star Wars division. Singles and teams, people are improving. So if you're not to the cut, then something's going to happen. But yeah, and again, it's unfortunate. Like, nobody walks into a match wanting to play that badly, but the fact of the matter is 4 points total would be a bad score for round 1, and that's her whole match total score. That's not good.
Nigan, what are your thoughts about this match?
Yeah, I have to agree with what you guys have kind of all said so far. And, you know, no disrespect to Sabrina Ramirez. I do follow SEN. Still, I know I'm in kind of the minority now, but Sabrina is a super nice person, you know, and she's she's got a good heart, and I think that she's still she's very passionate about movies, and she definitely has made that clear. But the other thing is, she's still very young. She's only like 23. So I think that is a little bit maybe to her detriment. I mean, you know, we've seen Paul Oyama and Brennan the Kid Meyer and these other young players play really, really well. So I wouldn't use that as an excuse as much, but I think that, yeah, she really, I agree with what Ryan was saying in the chat. I think that she could benefit immensely from going to the FCL and, kind of honing in those skills a little bit more. And that's what the FCL is for. It's not like a punishment. It's not like you played poorly, so you're sent to the FCL. It's supposed to be a developmental league. So if it's supposed to be a developmental league, I think that that's exactly what somebody like Sabrina Ramirez could benefit from. But I will say, I kind of liked what I saw from Clete Wiggins. After she got through that first round was rough. And, and obviously we didn't even get a chance to see her answer any third round questions because of the KO. But, she knocked that Harrison Ford category out of the park. And so I would like to see another match from Clete Wiggins. But I do think that Sabrina Ramirez should probably move to the FCL. Not to sound mean or anything, because I all the respect in the world to both of them. But
so
we're all trying to be very constructive here. We're all trying to be very constructive when it came with this performance from Sabrina. Yeah. And even with the FCL,
trying to put her down.
Yeah, we are seeing in the FCL certain people who are playing that are still not really adept yet to playing familiar with the Schmoedown rules. I mean, other than the ones we've seen, like with late to the party, Jared Habon, and now with the upcoming Warfighters and Vertenfuss being in the FCL. They've already they played their time in Schmoedown, and now they're being on FCL. And then you got some of the new people that were just introduced to the FCL being brought into the Schmoedown, like recently with Harley, Gerald Battaglia, and with Ross from Nowhere. To me, still, I see where Ryan is coming from with wanting Sabrina in the FCL. But even if I didn't know much about her through SCN, I have seen her on First Cut talk with movies with Ace and RB3. She does have, and Aaron's right, she has great passion for movies, and she does love certain movie genres out there that would kind of be very intimidating to some of the other people, like the whole Paul Thomas Anderson wheel that's up there. I've seen an episode of First Cut where she talked Paul Thomas Anderson. She even did a movie review of I Think I'm Ending Things with Video Drew, like a discussion on that. So when it comes to certain films that maybe would be some would consider maybe independent or like cinema, like classic cinema, I think she has that knowledge there that could give her the edge. It just came down to it where some of the more mainstream popular films were just like with this whole Star Trek was kind of out of her reach. And I do think that I want to see one more match from Sabrina, because even before the FCL, there were certain players we did see in the Schmoedown which everyone thought, why are they here in the first place? Have done great improvements, like Brittany Young, when in her first match, she did a pretty good job going up against Jader. And then you see in her match against Chris Jericho, she made some strides. Even Jader himself, he is making slow improvements to his ability to play. And I'll even throw this out here. Ben's heard me talk about her many times, but Bonnie Somerville, from when we saw her first match against Janine, it was a low-scoring match that went to sudden death. Then her match against Brett, it was very low-scoring. But then when you see her going up against Marisol, she didn't have a great round 2, but she avoided a TKO by getting all 3 of her round 3s. So to see that you can improve in the Schmoedown, and I'm not saying nobody is saying that, especially anyone in the chat, but I do know from just these few players themselves, they have shown great improvements. And Aaron, you even said to yourself with the Real Rejects, they even can pull out amazing performances like we saw last year in the Inner Geekdom tournament.
Part of me wonders, and it's actually kind of a funny comparison because she works with him so often, but RB3, I think I wonder if she plays a third match, unless we do get to see that great improvement, it might fall under kind of like what RB3, where like originally when he started playing, everybody was like, oh, he'll do great because he's a good discussionist. He's really good at discussing. That's not a word, but he's really good at discussing film. But there are multiple moments, like if you listen to the meaning of, there are multiple moments where you'll find RB3 trying to think of something, and he'll go like, the one with the where he's trying to recall it and it's not coming to him. So even though he's knowledgeable and he can speak about film, and especially because he's close to my age, but he's very well spoken, he's very articulate, he doesn't have the recall always. Part of me wonders if she's like that, because in her discussions with them, like the stuff I've seen, she is very articulate. She's very smart. She clearly knows things. But this is recall. This is you got 15 seconds, you got 3 chances at 30 seconds, and that's all you got to get there. And if you don't have it, then it may not work out. And I kind of find it a little funny that like she works with him and she's kind of falling into that same trap, because I think by the time he retired, he was like what 0-3 in singles, 0-2 in teams, and he had one good performance in a free for all. That's the best he got. So
let me ask you guys a question. I want an answer from all of you. Would Sabrina, and I can't remember, maybe she has, but maybe, I don't know. Would Sabrina work better as a team with the right partner under Corey? Would that be a good fit? That's not with Erin on this one.
but as a teammate, I mean, potentially she could work. My concern with that though is because even more like round 2, she didn't do great in. But again, like as Ryan pointed out immediately, she did spin opponent's choice and she landed with Star Wars, which obviously we don't know for sure. But I am very, very much willing to bet Klee put that on the wheel. She seemed a little too prepped to jump to it off the bat right away. Like I kind of have a funny feeling that that's something she knows and we just don't realize, like we didn't realize that at the time. But so she got stuck with opponent's choice, and that is what it is. But 3 of 8 in round 1, when the scope of questions is broad and it's a different thing every time, if you're in a teams match and you're playing even some of the other rookie teams that have shown up this year, I mean, look at the teams tournament that just happened. Every team but Deception was a rookie team. You know, and like I know this from stuff on another channel, but like Ryan, I know you had a lot of faith in Blackjack. Even Blackjack in their 0-1 debut played a really solid match. If she goes 3 for 8 against a team like Blackjack, no matter how good her partner's doing, they're decimated. Now the problem is we can't judge much further than that because of how the rest of the match went. But just from that foundation alone, it's worth a shot. If you have an opportunity where, like, because Shazam are still title contending, if you have an opportunity where you need a second team, I still think the go-to might be the Real Rejects because they honestly are showing legitimate improvement. But if you need to put together another team, it's worth a shot throwing somebody with her and seeing if that's better for her. But if it's like a matter of like I have one team and that's it, I wouldn't personally. But I think it's just up to how much Koi is seeing behind the scenes to believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to kind of add on, to add on to what you were just saying about if they were to need a second team, I'm looking at the rosters right now, and for the Quirky Mercs, yeah, I mean, you almost would want to go to the Real Rejects. If you don't go with the press room, right? Because that's who we went with. That's who Koi went with in the last team's tournament. Obviously, they didn't play a very good match compared to what they were up against. But you know, putting I still feel like we saw maybe enough from that team to give them another chance. So, is there a room for Sabrina Ramirez on maybe? I
forgot about that. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I guess it's like if Shazam still have the titles by the time the next team's tournament rolls around, and you go with like press room, and then you need another team. So it's almost like your secondary team for the Quirky Mercs. Then maybe you consider putting her with like maybe Beth May or somebody. I don't know. I'm just kind of like looking up down the roster.
Honestly though, if I'm looking at it, because I honestly for a second forgot the press room was theirs. Like I completely blanked on that. I'd give them a go over that. And even then, like if I'm looking at the players on it, I mean, like if Kevin Smith would do it, he's a really good option for a team because he has shown good play before now. Mm-hmm. You know, and even then, like if I'm looking at the roster just in order, I'd probably honestly take a chance on someone like Jesse Swift on teams ahead of Sabrina because he was good for his, you know, he had a perfect round in the free-for-all. So it shows that he has some semblance of broad knowledge. And if you pair him with someone that's good at singles, he shores up the IG section of it and gives you something another team might not have. Similar to the approach Roxy tried last year with the Wicked pairing Haben with Vavida.
Yeah. And so, I do see that. Honestly, I do like that approach.
Looking at the roster, honestly, No, I wouldn't put her on a team based off of what we've seen so far. I think there are better players who you would take a chance on that have shown a more confident showing thus far.
I forget, I'm sorry. Who's on freshman with Perry? Who's on that team?
Josh
Horowitz.
Okay,
Who
And
also won his singles match.
He played pretty good.
Oh, yeah. He went pound for pound against Paul Walter Hauser. So we do see that. Yeah, that was a teams match. So Josh was getting used to that format, but now that he got used to it, you see that from the singles perspective. I think, and I get from these are all very great points to make regarding Sabrina being put on a team. I think possibly there still could be a chance for her. I mean, going back to what you said about Aaron, about pairing someone off who can manage the IG section. I mean, yeah, Roxy also did that. Winston did that last year with Liz Shannon Miller and Adam. Adam Lavin, Rogue 2, and you saw exactly how well those two did when they got the Batman's they spun Tim Burton and they got like some IG questions, and then so I think it is possible. I mean, look. Unfortunately, this match is going to leave a big impression of Sabrina's knowledge, ability, and her ability to recoil amongst Schmoedown fan base. I'm at least going to be one of the few to go with, yeah, she had a bad match, but that doesn't mean she's going to have it bad maybe next time. Maybe she may not be, whenever there's going to be a singles tournament, I don't know if she'll be one of the options Corey will select, but still, I would love to see Sabrina possibly another opportunity. I do want to see one more chance for her to play this season, either in studio or as an undercard for a Schmoedown pay-per-view. I mean, because so far, Sabrina, her first inches was into a tournament, so she already had a lot on her shoulders. And this was a regular singles match. Let's try to put her back up against the wall again, make her part of an undercard, see if she'll rise to the occasion, because even from the few examples I stated, even other competitors have been rising to the occasion this season. I mean, come on, Video Drew, from her journey, she has now been putting out some great matches, performances. I mean, she nearly played a perfect game against Jen Kemp. She really played very well against Marisol. I mean, even Janine, who everyone was judging, was not sure of her abilities, how she was always failing on the third round. From what we saw against Marisol, and as being Jeff's added partner, she showed great strides of improvement, but that was after like 2 years in the Schmoedown. And I'm not saying Sabrina can close the gap within the next couple months for her next match, but I just don't want this to be the last match she plays this season. That's personally for me.
You know who I would like to see? I'll say this and then we should move on. I would like to see Sabrina versus Stacey Howard. I think that would be a good match.
That could be a good matchup, yeah.
Maybe for like an exhibition or something. I can see that would be a good match.
They're both 0-1 this season. It could be a good.
Oh, no, she's 0-2 now. She's 0-2 now.
Stacey played twice this season.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Sabrina. Oh, yeah.
So
Stacey. Yeah, she only played this year. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was just talking about this season. They're both 0-1. Yeah, in singles.
Yeah. But then but even looking at the records, it still pairs them apart, because Stacey has a moderate record on her compared to, of course, with Sabrina, who's new. If we had to give her a new match, maybe against a debuting rookie or someone with an 0-1 or 0-2 record, I think pairing her either up against maybe. I mean, I've not seen Rachel Silverstream play this season so far. She definitely deserves her match, because looking at her record, I mean, there's just so many people we have yet to see play in the factions just yet. So possibly once they all play, Christian will start putting out a second round matches.
He was really on the dead, right? He's still on the dead.
I'm sorry.
Silverstream is on the den.
She's still on the den. Yes.
Yeah.
She's just yet to play.
All right.
Yeah,
she was
picked up after they went off air.
Right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Now talk about this final match. Doug mentioned his, I only have his nickname, the Cooler. What do you guys think of all thoughts? Evan, I know there's not with you on this one.
We're going to the Friday match, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Jericho and Smith when they played each other. Obviously, a little less high profile. Like that one obviously was getting the star push because of who they were, but it's kind of a very similar thing. It's a movie personality versus a wrestling personality. They both come in with a sort of understanding of the game and a very baked attitude on one side of the table. And they end up playing a decent match each that goes to sudden death. It's almost kind of funny how much it mimics that match. No, I thought they were fine. I think it's a little unfortunate for Van Fleet that he didn't come out with the win, considering he was kind of leading the game the whole way. It just, that's the way it crumbles. But yeah, I think they both did solid. Good on Doug Benson after being one of the unused players on a roster for over a year, like a year and a half now. Good for him for showing up and getting a win. I'm sure that makes it all worth it. But yeah, I thought it was a fun match. I like the fact that Guy was on the desk with them because it seems like he's a little looser and willing to have some fun, whereas I'm sure Christian is also worried about producing a good show while hosting, which isn't a bad thing. But when you have, Benson stoned off his ass and Van Fleet's making jokes and kind of getting in it, it helps to have somebody who's a little more relaxed in the seat, especially when you have Mark, who is a comedian. It just makes it flow a little easier, whereas it seems like Christian's head is always half in what's happening and half, okay, is the next bit going to go correct? Which is what you should be doing as a producer. But it made the feel a bit better this time around with this one.
I'm only talking a minute, guys. I just have one question. With Guy on the test, do you think that relaxes the competitors a little? Because they don't have to worry about seeing a big box in the match. Do you think it relaxes them having Guy and Ellis opposed to Koloff and Ellis?
Well, I guess when it comes down to, sometimes the commentary can help who's ever on the desk commentating the match can help really ease the tension when you're playing. But sometimes it's been the reverse for players. How many times have we heard people say? So far within the digital age starting of last year, how many times have we heard? Yeah, the caca. And
prime example.
Commentators have not heard them. But even then, someone with Mark, it's obvious when you have Ellis on the desk, you're expecting to hear someone to be give a lot of quips, a lot of jokes. So it's not more of a fault to the player that the commentary is being distracting. It's just more of, oh, who's on the desk? Okay, cool, fine. Where I'm expecting a lot of jokes coming out here, especially last year when Christian and Mark kept doing with those little sound effects. The fart sounds, and also at the time in the editing, whenever we hear comedies, we hear the ha 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 sound bits on the matches. So but even then, I like this comparing of Guy and Ellis, because Guy, from people's storylines we've seen, he's so far under a Winter Soldier-esque kind of mind programming. So I kind of like this little version of him where he's being very professional. He's just trying to be all he's just trying to be all calm. Not the guy that he reverted to of Team Action, because if we saw that guy on desk, pretty sure people would be kind of uninterested to watch, at least when it comes with digital.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like how they're for their story angle that they're doing. I like how they are slickly working little things in here or there. But and the thing that people either may not know or kind of forget is with the work that he's done with competitive Clash Royale, he is an actual professional broadcaster. So this is a good way of using the story element to kind of just let him be himself and not have to worry about, playing a character, because I actually think he's a very good host. He's a good broadcaster. And I like that they're using, they're doing little bits to work him back in. They've gone from using pre-recordings of Christian to letting him do the intros and little things like that. So they're still progressing things while also just being listen, if Christian can't make it or he's doing whatever, maybe he's there behind the scenes, he's a good option to have as a host, because he has experience doing it, rather than just when they used to do where Snyder's free and not playing, stick him in the seat. Let's do it. We need somebody.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said there. I really like the mix of Guy and Ellis on the desk right now. and we're seeing more of it. And I think that helps Guy like kind of get more practice in that role. And I definitely see an improvement over the matches that he's done. Not to say he wasn't bad at first; it just like took him a little time. Like I think he talked in between a round there late in the match, and Ellis had to be like, no talking during round 3 or whatever. So there's definitely some banter that is to be expected, but I think that that's kind of I don't think it's a point where it's distracting. I mean, I think it's obviously different for different players, but you kind of just have to expect that, and especially with kind of the comedic timing between these two. I've been really liking it so far, and looking forward to seeing more of Andrew Guy on the desk, because Christian is running the entire thing, so I think that he wants to do less kind of in the spotlight or on camera stuff these days, and he wants to kind of work behind the scenes, because there's so much to do this season, more now than there ever has been. You got Skybound on one end as well. You got that element in there. So I think it's good. I like it with Guy and Ellis.
Do you think once we get back to the studio, do you think Guy will continue being on the desk, or do you think he'll come out of retirement and play once we get back into the studio?
I think he'll still be there, because there's the whole storyline thing too,
Right.
with the whole like brainwashing Winter Soldier, Schmoedown with Grace or whatever. So
Exactly.
I think he'll stick around for sure.
I was just gonna say, I think as soon as they get back to studio, I think immediately for the immediate future he will still be used as a host, because I think they will work it into the storyline. Also, considering how important the sports structure aspect of the game is now, considering every match is for points, and points equals literally the potential to win money, I don't think they just waste a match slot throwing Guy into play, or vice versa, like having one of the factions just take him on. Like I think they'd rather wait and work it naturally back into the next season if the plan is to do some kind of rejig again, like they've discussed.
Yeah. Gotcha. I forgot about that in fact.
So I was gonna say, if we can do it after, can we go to one of the comments so I can say something controversial? We can do it after the match.
We can pull it right now. We don't have to wait until we're done talking. I mean, if someone if there's a certain comment you want to look at, we can pull that up right now.
Yeah.
So the Ryan the first comment he says was the Van Fleet versus Jericho at Spectacular, and then he followed it up with the, do you think Jericho will play at a live event? Do I personally, for my taste, do I think it'll happen? Probably, because if they can get him back, they'll want him in because he's a big name. For my own personal opinion, and I say this as somebody who isn't a wrestling fan, I could care less if Jericho ever comes back. Like, honestly, he's fun enough on camera, but especially in a world where people are moving towards the more competitive nature of things, this either has to be competitive or it has to be entertainment, because Jericho did fine, but he showed no real signs of improvement from match 1 to match 2. His match 1 was only a higher score because they went to sudden death, but he really didn't show signs of improvement. And I get that he wouldn't, because he's Chris Jericho. He's working with wrestling, and I know people have said he's in a band and he's doing other things. So like, I get that you can't dedicate the same amount of time to this as a Dan Merle would, but the only reason I'd see him coming back is if they can convince him, and they do it for sure because he's a name. But honestly, I don't care. Like, I'd rather that slot on Roxy's roster go to somebody who could make a debut and want to be there and potentially do it, especially considering she's had a number of people on her roster that haven't had a chance to play yet. I'd hate to see one of them get dropped for a guy who's 0-2 and not really improving just because he's Chris Jericho. Almost every other celebrity that's still in the game is actually paying attention and doing it. Even recently, like Paul Walter Hauser walked into that match with some semblance of the rules and understanding. That's not something that happened a few years ago, whereas Jericho walked in like he barely had a conversation beforehand. So I understand the wrestling fans want it. I'm just speaking from my own personal opinion. I don't care.
No,
Can I talk real quick? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Diggin, you had something to say? Go right ahead, man.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say to kind of push back on what you were saying, Aaron. I know you're not a wrestling fan, so you may not want to see Jericho, but I know that there are a lot of wrestling fans, myself included. If you couldn't tell by my AEW thing I got here.
Nice.
So this is actually our predictions belt. Me and my buddy have an ongoing feud with our wrestling predictions, so that's kind of for that. But when it comes to Jericho, I think there are plenty of wrestling fans that will want to see him in a match, and especially in a live event setting. I mean, he has a song that he comes out to at AEW called "Judas in My Mind." Everybody sings along to it, and that at a Schmoedown live event would be absolutely unreal. And you kind of have to think of it this way: so you got your really good matches. You got Dan Murrow versus Marisol McKee or whatever. Let's just say that's the main event of Spectacular, and you got the IG title on the line and the Star Wars title on the line. So you got all these very competitive matches that are happening. You want kind of a palate cleanser, for the fans that maybe aren't as into the Schmoedown. You want something that's a little bit more entertainment value to it. So I think to put a Chris Jericho versus Van Vliet match in between the team's title and the IG title or something spectacular would be a very smart booking decision for them to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that in the end, you want to bring in new fans. So I think to bring in the ratings and money, a Chris Jericho match would be good for Spectacular. But that's all I'll say for now.
You're 100% correct, and that is probably the more traveled route. But
yeah.
Ben, what is it that you wanted to say earlier?
Yeah, I was going to say everything that taken with just that, so
Well,
I should have. So
I mean,
I tend to agree with you, Diggin.
if I could be the little middle bridge here, I get from both Aaron and Dakin's perspective. As a wrestling fan myself, I would love to be at a live crowd at a certain event and Jericho playing, and then tying into his little wrestling roots, he comes out with the song Judas and be singing along with it. I would love that. But at the same time, I understand from Aaron how he's talking about that, Jericho may be a celebrity, a rock star, someone that the Schmoedown that Christian wants to bring a more general and broader audience to watch the Schmoedown, since he is a part of Skybound, and he also has to try to balance, or at least try to, really reward. Skybound brought them in, so he's doing everything he can to make sure that Skybound made the right call. So I understand him bringing in a lot of celebrity personalities, movie critics like Horowitz, and even with Van Vliet, him being a professional journalist. So I get him doing that because it brings in a more wider audience. But also, it is more necessary that if you want to make the Schmoedown important, how about some players in certain factions that really haven't played yet, really get them a match in? Because let's say, then what was the point of having 12 people be drafted by 8 managers if only 70 or 60% of them are going to be able to play? Now, of course, that falls down to scheduling. But even then, with Christian wanting to go back to studio, and even though he's been open about being very unhappy with the digital era, at this point, if he wants to make sure everybody in certain factions play, he is going to need to rely on both studio and digital, but not lean too much on studio in order to make sure it brings in the audience, the audience that he wants. But Aaron is right that maybe before Roxy as a manager decides to bring in Jericho, if she chooses, let's see if any of her players on her faction is going to be able to play this season. And if they can't, well, then we know personally for her free agency is over because she had picked up Nick Harley, but the doors can still be held open around this time.
Well, you're not all missing one element in this equation. Jericho and Roxy are friends.
Oh, well aware of that, yeah.
So, if anybody could get Jericho to play, it's her. And he even said he wouldn't play for anybody but Roxy.
He's definitely openly said that. And even earlier the year, Shannon had said she wanted no one to touch Laura or Marisol because, they're her players. Now, I give her a manager standpoint why she would make that declaration. From a fan standpoint, that makes no fucking sense to me because then it seems like the manager is pretty much the only reason why these two are successful. Now, Marisol, I think Marisol would have been fine if she did not get traded to Shannon. Laura has already proven she doesn't need Shannon to be a great player. But this is just my own personal bias coming in. But you are right.
I mean, I'm sorry. No, sorry. I didn't realize you had another thing. My bad.
I was mainly just going to mirror off from when we talked about yesterday, me and you, Ben, when we came to talk about JTE. JT and Dagnino are very good friends, and they do work well together as a good, player-manager pairing. So it would make sense that Jericho and Roxy would work well together, especially Roxy has said on Machine Mondays that she likes to work with players that are not just studying on their own, that likes to be part of the group that puts in the work. Now, I really don't know where Jericho fits in that and that's a mystery to me. But still, if Jericho was really honest about not wanting to play for anyone else but Roxy, then the next time he plays and Roxy does pick him up, he has to 100% prove that he is serious about this.
Yeah.
My guess, and this is only me guessing, Roxy will pick him up and he will play at the Spectacular in front of a live audience because that's where he would shine the most. And Christensen is a die-hard wrestling fan, as much as everybody else is in the league. So they want to bring in wrestling. They want to bring in that excitement. They want to bring in Judas and a song. They want all that. So that's my guess. He will be back for Spectacular playing under Roxy. That's my guess. And I think we should move on to this final match real quick.
Yeah, we should definitely get talking about this match.
Yeah, I know. Can I just say one quick thing here? There's two players on the Stars right now that she could easily drop in these two Barstool guys that we're not sure what their deal is, if they're ever going to play. So if she drops the two Barstool guys, she could pick up Chris Jericho and somebody from the FCL and be in better shape than she was.
She could. I don't think she will. That's my guess.
Sure. The option is there, though, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, just because I have it up, because I looked for the other thing as well, and it's nothing against anybody, but if I'm dropping somebody to pick up someone like Jericho, I might be more inclined to drop Christy V. And it's nothing against anyone personally, but we don't know because Roxy has 3 players who haven't played yet. So obviously, if it's an availability thing, then they should get dropped. But let's just say all 3 of them are open to play and they just haven't been scheduled yet. I'd rather hold off and see what somebody who hasn't played can do than keep somebody who already hasn't won. And if I'm just being honest, her performance wasn't the strongest. So
sure.
That's
just my mind as a manager versus what somebody else might do.
That's fair. Let's go over this real quick. Round 1 ends in 56. Who is it? Who got
Van
Fleet was leading
by 1 point. And yeah, it was the energy here was pretty obvious that Benson and Fleet, they were there to play. And from what, as well as you guys had said that it was more of a reminiscence of Smith and Jericho, this match felt to me that this was something from season 3 of Schmoedown, when they were just there to have fun, crack a couple of jokes, and then answer some movie questions. And it was clear from even though Doug had unfortunately his internet connection was terrible, it didn't stop him from wanting to throw in a joke every now and then. And Van Vliet was so really loving, really having so much fun within this. And I loved both the slices they got in round 2, that they put together such a good round. I mean, unfortunately, Vliet was behind, but even then, the fact that Doug Benson gets sports, murders that slice, and watching Vliet's reaction to him nailing the question was just was so entertaining.
Poor Vliet, he almost got that Dwayne The Rock Johnson category. I feel like he could have equaled Benson, or maybe even be ahead going into that last round if he got that category.
Aaron, what did you think? Real quick.
Yeah, it was a fun. It was one of those matches where honestly, for the better. I don't think either of them cared how many points they scored. They were clearly just enjoying the setting and they were having fun with it. Yeah, they both had solid enough round ones, as we said, and this is not to tear in too much into anybody, but the match the day before had two competitors who had played before who scored less than they did. So that's a fair enough showing for round one for two rookies to come in and do that well. And then, yeah, Benson did really well in round two. He got, I would say it's in his wheelhouse, but I don't think even he believed that. But he got the questions right, so who cares? And then, yeah, Van Fleet got stuck with a category he didn't seem as strong in. It hurt him a little bit, giving him a little bit of a deficit going into round three. But I would say they both played about as solidly as they could the whole time. The misses that they were hitting, it felt like stuff that would trip up a normal rookie in a match. A couple of round ones here or there you're not ready for, a round two category that you were hurt in, and then in round three, Van Fleet hit his 5. That's impressive for a rookie, especially a rookie that's coming in with the celebrity status, and you never quite know how to rate how somebody will do with that. Good job, honestly, to both of them. They played really well.
Well, let's talk about the categories real quick in round two. Benson got the supports, and the cruiser got Reese Witherspoon. What are your feelings about those categories? That's not just lying.
Just quick.
Reese Witherspoon needs. No, sorry. I was just gonna say, Reese Witherspoon needs better movies. That's all I have to say.
Even Van Fleet said she's been a couple of bad ones. Van Fleet said she's been a bad one, so not enough to balance out the wheel.
Terrible movies, yeah.
Okay.
Too, because Reese Witherspoon has shown in her career she's really cranking up some good films.
She won an Oscar, for God's sakes.
Yeah, she's almost like the female Matthew McConaughey. She did some good films in her youth, then was thrown into the rom-coms pile, and now she's getting out of it. But other than that, it was obvious that once Van Fleet got Reese Witherspoon, he knew he was at a detriment because he thought sports, he could easily get some steals off of Benson, but Benson was able to maintain and he answered every question, getting that clean sweep. So it definitely seems to me that Van Fleet, other than Dwayne Johnson, sports was going to be another strength of his because he looked like he was at the bit wanting to get that steal. Every time Doug was going, yikes. I mean, yikes might be Doug's little red cape waving in front of the bull. Like, oh, I don't know this. I knew it.
So Van Vliet was interviewed by LGR, and he admitted which two categories he put it on the wheel. And then later he was like, Ben Bateman's going to kill me for this, but he had put on Christopher Nolan as well, which kind of surprised me. So
really?
he just revealed in an interview what his categories were. So you're not really supposed to do that, but it was interesting. I was like, wow, Nolan. I wouldn't have guessed that was the other. I figured for sure Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but I had no idea that he was strong in Christopher Nolan. So now we know.
Which that makes sense. He seems like a guy that, especially being on the dungeon with like the action motif that kind of works there. He seems like a guy that probably enjoys blockbusters. So like Dwayne Johnson and Chris Nolan. Yeah, okay. That kind of makes sense to some extent.
Yeah, it makes sense when you hear it. Yeah.
So round three happens. They end up being tied at the end of round three. 18-18. They go to sudden death. They make it 6 rounds. And yeah. And 21-20 is a final score. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, the thing that surprised me the most was him missing that Jesse Ventura question. And I think that was like one of the big talking points coming out of this match. Like, how does the wrestling guy miss the wrestling question? But he admitted that 80s is not a strong category for him. But come on, I mean, I think that was an easy question. It's like It's almost like they wrote that question to give him the win if they ever got that far into the match, and he whiffed on it.
I will say this, though, regarding that Ventura question. Even if you're not familiar with 80s or that much with Predator, I mean, if you don't remember his character's name, Blaine, then it's going to be like, oh my God, who the hell this dude is. Like, I can easily tell you that Carl Weathers is in Predator, but what was his character's name? Unless I remember that meme of him and Arnold Schwarzenegger clapping hands together. It'll be a hard time. It'll be hard to pull Dylan out of his head.
Yeah.
I get that, but he's the only wrestler in that movie. So you would kind of, I mean, my brain associates, okay, wrestler in the movie, Jesse Ventura, obviously.
True. And he may just not know the movie as well, because the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, can I just say, if we're going down the road of what answer do I put if I'm just absolutely out of answers, confidently saying Sylvester Turkey's a great, I don't know, if that's a real person, that'd be amazing.
That was a wrestler, yeah.
Is that actually a real person? I thought that was a fake name. That was
a character name for a wrestler. That was a character name for a wrestler, Sylvester Turkey.
Oh, that makes it even better. I didn't know that was a real person. I thought he just wrote a fake name on the paper for fun. So yeah, that just tells me he doesn't know the movie well enough. If like he was just going with a random wrestler guess. The fact that they both went, I kept thinking Hulk Hogan makes sense as well, because that seems like something that Hogan would end up in randomly. Yeah, I mean it's one of those, like, I think when 80 showed up earlier in the match, he literally winced, so it's not funny that, like, it makes sense that, like, a film that's really, really 80s is something that he wouldn't know. Because that movie, for better, feels like it's from the 80s. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate. It is just kind of funny that, like, he's a wrestling guy who missed it. It'd be like if Kevin Smith missed Kevin Smith question, or Paul Walter Hauser missed a Spike Lee question, because he's worked with him a few times now.
Or
like,
Clint
it's just
Eastwood question, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that didn't work out.
Or Sam Levine missing a Quentin Tarantino question.
Can I just say the thing that stood out to me in that, aside from the fact that they both missed like 3 in a row, that was funny, but the fact that Sam Levine had to ask, wait, so what are the rules of this? How many repeats do they get? That was kind of funny, just like noting that and it may have been a bit, but like as a manager, the fact that you'd ask that out loud is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, it was, for what that match was, it was a sudden death that was fitting of that match. They both got a couple right, then just went on an awful, awful streak till Doug Benson guessed his way into the right answer.
That's also what sudden death falls down to. I mean, they don't give you the categories anymore. They just tell you the questions. And this is so far in this season, this is the 5th match we have seen, 5th or 6th match we've seen go to sudden death. I mean, counting in teams matches, singles, Star Wars and IG. A lot of sudden death matches we had this year compared to last season or even the season before that. So the questions are definitely it just shows the true good that PJ Campbell as a writer is really stepping up along with his writing team. They're really starting to get some better questions in here, and they're able to circulate them in much better to where we're getting some good performances.
Yeah, Ryan, and I think it also shows the level of competition that's in the Schmoedown right now. We have so many incredible players, and I think the league is like, the most competitive, maybe the best it's ever been. So I totally agree.
Well, that's the 3 matches. Does anyone have anything else to say about last week? Real quick. Evan, why don't you take it?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Ryan?
Honestly, not much. I just know that so far, every week that we've had of the Schmoedown since March, we've always had ourselves like a very good mixture of some very top tier matches, along mixed with some surprising, maybe at times disappointing matches. Now, is that fault of the players? No, I think it just falls to us for our expectations and how well this season has been going. Counting in the pay-per-views, counting in the upsets, the surprises that we've had, this season has really set a very, very high bar. And with the fact that most of these rookies out here are, regardless, either they're the Star Wars Dragon Con players, rookies coming from singles or Inner Geekdom, the bar has been set at a high pace here. And now it gets to the point to where you need to either change what you're doing, or you keep staying the way you are, you're going to keep failing. But we're like 3 months in so far. We're almost halfway to the end of the season, halfway to the end of the year. So believe me when I tell you that when the moment Christian is back in studio, I will not be shocked if we start getting, especially with that new August schedule that came out that he just shared on the group. Still going to be Schmoedown matches. Oh, Yeah, it's regarding the new SEN and Schmoedown schedule. I
Oh,
mean, it's
yeah,
still
I did see
the same.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still the same though, but this time I think Monday
It's on
and
different
Tuesday.
channels. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
What happened to Aaron?
No, he'll be back. But yeah, that's my final thoughts here. The fact that Christian wants to keep upping the ante on this, and the fact that we're going to begin an Inner Geekdom and another Star Wars tournament down the road, possibly even another Ultimate Schmoedown for singles and teams. The matches are going to be insane. So I will not be surprised by August through October. It's going to be matches every damn day.
David, what are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Ryan. I feel like every week, I'm just like, wow, that was like one of the best weeks that we've had ever in the Schmoedown. Just in terms of variety of matches and how well kind of everybody's playing and the high level of competition. So, really happy with what I've seen so far. And as you guys mentioned, we're kind of like towards the midway point now. And so, we kind of, as you said, they've raised the bar. So we anticipate a lot more all-time classic Schmoedown matches, I think, in the next few months, kind of leading up to, after Collision, leading up to Spectacular, through all the tournaments and everything, too.
All right. Well, yeah, it was a great week, great match here, some entertaining, a little disappointing, but I think it was all good. Love this week with a great pay-per-view on Friday night. That was
Yeah.
great.
It was kick-ass.
Yep. So before we get out of here, why don't you guys tell everyone where they can find you? Dagan, why don't you go first?
Absolutely. You can hit me up on Twitter at DaganSB. That's at DAGANSB. I also am on Stereo, which, yes, is still a thing. Myself and Corey Cameron are actually going to be going live in just over an hour here at 5:30 Eastern, doing our Schmoedown recap show, which we don't, go by the matches, as much. We just kind of open it up to general discussion and kind of, have some pretty cool, conversations about stuff that's going on in Schmoedown. So you can find us there, stereo.com/DaganSB and stereo.com/Corey Cameron as well. As I said, we'll be doing a show here at 5:30 Eastern. So come hang with us and send us some voicemails on Stereo.
Nice. Aaron, where can everyone find you? Aaron.
Aaron.
I think his camera's frozen. Can you hear us, Aaron? Or his mic is off.
Okay.
Darn.
We'll try again. But while we're waiting on Aaron to come back, I'll go. Yeah. Of course, everybody, you can definitely find me here on Schmoes the North. Maybe every blue moon, helping the guys out here with Schmoedown Night in Canada, reviewing these week's matches, reviewing the matches of the previous week. You can also find myself and Ben on Mount Schmoedown and also with our third co-host, John DeGraggio, as we break down the career of Schmoedown players. Just this yesterday, we talked about JTE, and we have plenty more players to cover as we're going to wrap up June, and we're going to do something special coming up in July for everyone who has watched the show. And finally, if anyone out there are wrestling fans, I do have myself a wrestling podcast that I co-host with the current competitor in the First Class League, the Sinister One himself, James Shimo. It is called Wrestling, Ramblings, and Rages Podcast. It's available on Spotify, Podbean, Anchor, and we sometimes record ourselves live on Stereo whenever that pops in. And then finally, I was going to mention Mount Schmoedown, but I already did, so I'm done.
Yeah. You're good, man. Aaron, how about you? Where can everyone find you?
And he's frozen.
Okay. Well.
Jesus. It's like the internet bug decided to avoid me and just started to pick on you guys. I'm like, wow. All right, wait, he's back.
Maybe not. Yeah. Well, that was Aaron, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out Aaron's stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron has a lot of stuff that he does on TMG, guys. It's a YouTube channel, and they do a lot of stuff. They do trivia matches. He also has a show on TMG called After Dark, where it's more of an open form discussion show where they do a mixture of like movie news. Sometimes they talk about the Schmoedown, and they also will talk about sports, politics. Like I said, it's an open discussion format show. And also on TMG, if some of you are fans of trivia, they do hold trivia matches there. They do for regular trivia, team matches, and IG. So check them out at TMG Entertainment, their YouTube channel, or TMG Trivia.
And like Ryan can say, you can find me right here on Schmoedown every Saturday doing Melt the Schmoedown with him, and you can find me at my other YouTube channel, the Videos Ready Network. We have shows. I'm on shows on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. And whenever they need me on this channel, I'm here. So, from Schmoedown, thank you everyone for joining us this day. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Stay ready and smash cancer.
Smash Cancer.